Hi there, HiddenWires viewers and readers. This is Mike Heiss here, your U.S. correspondent, and coincidentally, CEDIA 2005 is indeed in the U.S. here in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Last day of the show, so there aren't that many people wandering around. There's bowling in the aisles, but it has actually been a very interesting show. And usually, and I will be, writing this up as soon as I get home for HiddenWires for the next issue. But, people say, what'd you see? What's new? What's new? And I wouldn't say that, at least in my area of field, which is audio video displays, I wouldn't say that there was anything stunningly different and new. And you know what? Not a bad idea. That shows that there's some stability in the market, and it means that the learnings that you have as technology professionals and that your staff have will continue to really produce for you all without having to learn too much stuff. No new Dolby, no new DTS, no new this, no that. So why did you come here? Well, actually there were quite a few things to see, and coincidentally, just sort of coincidentally, that IFA in Berlin is happening as I sit here in Denver, and how can you be in two places at once when you're not anywhere at all? So I'm in Denver, and there were some things that actually were introduced in Berlin at IFA that are not here. And just briefly, Dolby Vision 2, which will come out first from Hisense, regrettably not here. But one of the things that is here, and there as well, quite frankly, was something I saw in the secret room at CES, which was Samsung's micro LED RGB. Say that fast 3 times when you haven't gotten any sleep in the last few days. And it still has an LCD panel, but the backlighting is micro LED RGB, not white, not filtered, but direct RGB. And because it's a micro LED, there are gajillions of them. And that's a very technical term, but there are gajillions of them, and it's a 115-inch set. The retail price here in the US will be 30, so convert that to pounds or currency, or currency of your choice, euros, whatever. But the picture was stunning. And if someone were to say to me, Mike, what was the best set of the year? I would definitely say the Samsung 115-inch, and I gotta say this a little bit slowly, micro LED RGB LCD, my winner. Now, again, as always is when you read my articles in HiddenWires, it says at the bottom, your mileage may vary. Not all products are available in all markets, but TCL, who I believe were also at IFA and are now selling in EMEA and the UK, they have a 115 mini LED QD, and it's considerably less than $30,000. But that set was brilliant, as you would say, but brilliant literally and figuratively. And that's definitely something that I would recommend. In terms of trends, another thing that when you see one brand doing it once one year, and then you see more doing it the next year, that means it's something that the manufacturers wouldn't bring these things out if there wasn't a market for it. So Skyworth, TCL, and Samsung are all on frame, which is the way that Samsung has introduced it, but it's the TV as art when you're not watching TV. And Skyworth now has a 100-inch one, and since they are a global brand, I'm sure that's available everywhere. Also a very, very good set. In terms of audio, kind of interesting. The market has changed, and I was working in the AVR coal mines many, many years ago. And it used to be that you'd have new AVRs every year, just like you used to have new cars every year, just about this time. But industry has changed across the board, and there were some new AV receivers, but strangely enough, from higher-end brands, both Storm and Trinov. There must be something in the water over there in France that they both introduced AV receivers. But the major brands, the Yamahas and the Sonys and the Denon and Marantz, which will soon, perhaps by the end of the year, actually be part of the Harman Orbit, they did not introduce any new models. And, maybe there's nothing wrong with that, because the ones they have are pretty bloody good. So, it was interesting that there really weren't any new AVRs this year other than again, the ones from Storm and Trinov, and there were some from some of the higher end brands, the Arkhams and the Anthems, but otherwise status quo. Another very interesting thing, you think of CEDIA as a home theater show, and now of course there is home theater, but I'm sitting here amidst wires and lighting and AV over IP and Dante and all of that, but there still is, and in fact there was quite a bit this year of stereo, 2-channel, and there were some very interesting new products. Again, some of this introduced also concurrently at IFA. Onkyo is introducing a very powerful 2-channel stereo preamp and 2-channel amplifier, and they'll have some more of that in the fall. JBL had some amazingly good looking and good sounding 2-channel products. 2-channel is also sort of being taken over by streaming, and one of the trends, at least in terms of how these things present to your clients, is the AVRs, other than the existing lines, and these streaming ones all have 5-inch, 5.5-inch color TFT displays, because since they are streaming devices, you get to see the cover art. And I mean, I spent many, many, many years working at a major VCR. Hell, I did that too. AVR manufacturer, and there were buttons galore and a little 2-line display and some icons. Now, there aren't that. This ain't Mike's old AVR. There are displays, there are apps, there's a volume knob, there's maybe a source knob, and 1 or 2 buttons maybe for source and surround mode, but that's it. And you know what? Not a bad idea after all, but especially in a home theater environment, who's going to get up and punch the buttons in the front of the thing? People are going to run it on an app anyway, or still a remote control. But even the remote controls, a JBL's MA series, which is definitely not Mike or Mike's father or grandfather, although it wasn't in their time, AVRs. But the AVR for the new JBL, the remote for the new JBL MA series, been out for about a year, don't have 48 buttons like the ones that I used to make were. They look like they're from a streamer, and they are streaming music, but as well as, Dolby Digital, Dolby DTS, Dolby Atmos, DTSX, clean front panel. And maybe that is showing that where the AVR is still a viable product, it's looking to a different market. It's not looking to, boomers like me or millennials, but to Gen Xers and Gen Zs who want something more than a sound bar. So sort of in total, what I've seen in terms of audio, at least here at CEDIA Expo 2025, is people who want what they've always wanted, that's there. People who want big home theaters, there were some of those. People who want AVRs, some of those, but new AVRs. And, as I look at my list here, lots of lighting, but somebody else will talk about that. There were increasingly more direct view LEDs, although interestingly, all of the demos, all of the big high-end demos were still projectors. One of them had the $30,000 Christie projector, and I just came from the JBL Synthesis demo, and they had, I think, a $50,000 Epson. And, yes, you can punch holes in a screen. No, you can't punch holes in a direct view LED. Well, once you can, but then it sort of won't work too well anymore. Although I must add that there was one direct view LED from Quantum Media who's always kind of had the best. And I think they still, with apologies to all my other friends in that segment of the industry, that is still far and away the best, and I commend them for that. Another interesting thing, Theory, where the design is by Paul Hales, and without going into too much detail, come back for the print edition in about 6 weeks, and you'll read all about it. But now I've ruined you all, because again, for those of you who have not met me in person, you're going to be reading my articles in the magazine, but you're going to be hearing me. So I probably ruined you all enough for now. So farewell from Denver, Colorado, and hope to see you maybe at CES, and hope to see you in the new year at ISE. So thanks, and keep reading Hidden Wires.